I think just really stepping back and forcing myself to take a really global view of my business rather than just be, when you're in your business and you're working and you're reacting all the time. And it's even, I mean, when you're in any kind of business, you're in some kind of a dance between planning and executing. But as architects, I tend to be, in the moment on the job site, in the drawings with the client, and it's harder for me to sort of take the sort of helicopter view of the big picture and think about all those types of things with the business.
This is The Business of Architecture.
Hello, I'm Enoch Sears, and this is the podcast for architects, where you'll discover tips, strategies, and secrets for running a profitable and impactful architecture practice. Now, let's get down to business. Today's guest is Earl Parson, founder and owner of Parson Architecture based in Pasadena, California. Today, he's going to be telling us about a very interesting entrepreneurial venture that he's embarked upon. And so without further ado, here's today's show. Earl, welcome to the Business of Architecture.
Thanks, Enoch. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we've known each other for a while. We've even worked together some. Give our listeners just a background of who you are and your firm.
Great. Well, thanks. So I'm happy to do that. I'm Earl Parson. I'm an architect in Los Angeles. My practice for the last number of years has been Parson Architecture, working on houses, residential remodels, additions, and new construction for folks, which is really what I love doing. I'm a solo practitioner. I occasionally have part-time help, but it's just primarily me. And I'm launching a new venture, which I'm very excited about, which is the name of the project on the platform is called Clever Moderns. And it's basically a platform where owner builders can get plans and support for putting together their projects. So it's sort of an idea about, house plans that, there are sites that offer that service out there on the web, but it's trying to really do that type of service with a more careful focus on, for example, what Seth Godin calls the connection economy, where people kind of get together as a community with this shared interests and kind of like-minded values to pursue a project or take on something that I'm really looking to build this around a community of people that can support one another and get support from me and the team here that I'm going to be building to build their house.
So what is the biggest challenge to getting this off the ground for you right now?
Well, so it's interesting. I'm sort of discovering the challenges as I go. And, part of it, one of the biggest challenges is just focusing on getting it going while I'm also running my practice, making the time to really develop the concept, because it's sort of taking the things that I'm used to doing as an architect, but kind of expanding them and developing them in a different way. So it's sort of sitting down, working through the ideas, figuring out, okay, there's going to be a thing here I'm going to need, which isn't really the way I've done that part of the process, and how does that work? And some things like building an online community with forums and resources, that's WordPress makes it easy to get all those things, for your website, but really figuring it out is still a challenge, and how to make it all go. So I'm learning a lot of that as I go, and just sort of bootstrapping it, as I work through the issues. So,
have you decided on a software platform or technology that you're going to use to run the platform?
Well, right now I am just working on with WordPress at the moment, and I got a domain. It's clevermoderns.com. And I've got some ideas for the first round of houses that I'm going to put up on the site for folks. And it started with just the idea of scratching my own itch, because I'm looking to build a house for myself in the next year and a half, and getting together ideas for that, and just wanting to really share that process really from start to finish, and share the plans. And if anybody else wants to build this house, they can, get the plans. and build themselves their version of it. And it also started that part of that idea too of sort of sharing the plans, sharing, my resources, just very openly and transparently with anyone that wants to join in, kind of came also with this idea that I have had for a long time about architecture and the relationship between architecture and music. And so here in Los Angeles, when they built the Disney Concert Hall it was about 10 years ago, I think they just had their 10th anniversary, and it was a big splashy thing. And, Angelinos are thrilled to have a Frank Gehry building on a big scale and, really a big public building like that. And there was a lot of talk of the relationship between architecture and music. And it kind of, I play piano and I love classical music. And I felt like there were just way too many articles written that really stretched that metaphor way too thinly, and was kind of bugged me a little bit. But it really made me think about that a lot. And I thought about this idea that architecture and music do share this really interesting thing. Interesting to me is that you create an abstract form of notation that then the actual artwork is developed from. So a composer writes a score and it's performed, and it's the performance that's the actual work of art. Mm-hmm. It's not the score. All right. So an architect creates drawings and then this building is built, and that's the finished building that's really the work of art. But it's, the work of the architect is in generating the design, doing the drawings, working to get it built, and then they sort of leave. And then you can go back and visit your buildings. But when the public experiences architecture, they're experiencing this thing that exists in the world. And the process that architects go through of what architecture is for us as a practitioner is a completely different thing. It's the process of getting it there. And I was thinking about it a lot, and I was realizing that, well, what if there was a way that architecture could sort of be built multiple times from the same score, the way a performance can happen like that with music. And it kind of goes against everything we're taught in architecture school in a certain way, that every work, architecture is site specific and it's specific to the client, and it's, very individualized and customized. And that's, that's the main version of architecture that we're taught. There are other ways that it can be done. And so I'm kind of trying to explore a different way that it could be done, where there can be some design that could be put out there and it could be built many times in different versions by different people, sort of putting their own spin on it to suit what their interests are, or what their more specific needs might be. And if they had support and some coaching along the way, they could make those customizations or do those things with it that really make it their own. And some versions might turn out better than others, but that it would be sort of a valid way of approaching it.
And how do you plan to monetize the platform?
So there are a couple of different ways I'm looking to monetize it. One of the main things that I'm excited about with it is that I am basing it on a freemium business model. So the basic set of plans, if somebody wants to download, which would basically be equivalent to like what an architect would call a schematic design. Schematic design set would be, is just going to be available for free. Free download, do what you want with it, no strings attached. And so that's a little bit kind of scary. It seems a little bit risky. It's not, again, we're sort of taught to not give too much away for free. And so I'm kind of running the other way with the football and saying, well, let's give it away for free. And then construction drawings will be purchased. And with the purchase of construction drawings for a project, you'll get access to support and the support community. So there's kind of a value add there as well. And then we're actually looking to put together like finish and fixture packages for the houses that somebody building a particular house from our line would be able to sort of with an easy purchase on the website, get maybe all of their flooring, all of their tile, bath and kitchen fixtures, and those things. Quantities already figured out, the material sourced and shipped directly to you, and have a variety of choices available for that. And if somebody wanted to just go to their local place and buy that stuff directly on their own. They could, if they would like the looks that we put together and want to just sort of get it through our platform, then that would be a source for us to monetize it as well. So I'm trying to think about options like that, things to build into the system to monetize it. And those are some of the ideas.
And going forward, what is the biggest fear that you have about this new venture, if any?
Well, I mean, it is a little bit, it feels scary. And then at the same time, it sort of feels like there's not a huge downside for me if it's really slow to take off or if it doesn't quite catch on. It's an idea that I really want to try. And I think there's conceivably a market for this. And it's, trying to manage selling plans in conceivably 50 states, or, trying to develop a set of plans that really can respond to the climate in a northern state and a southern state. Obviously, there can be some issues there as well. So just really trying to, when I really think through all the ramifications of this scheme that I've cooked up, there is a lot to work out, and so that seems daunting a lot of the time. But it just seems exciting to me. So I feel like I'm onto something that has, like I said, not a huge downside if it doesn't really go huge or blow up and get big. I think it has the potential to really go somewhere. And I have taught in the past, and I kind of miss teaching, and I'm looking at this as also a way to sort of develop a side of my practice that also has a kind of teaching aspect to it. And I think the idea that the best clients that we have as architects, that we put our heart into the project, there's always a kind of gratitude that comes back, I think, from the clients, and wanting to really, I think, expand that in a way that I can reach more people with this kind of a process than I might be able to reach just on my own. So I think that's a motivator for me as well.
Is the platform going to be open source where other people can put plans on it, or are you going to be doing all the plans in-house?
So that's definitely something I want to do. It's I'm part of what I'm developing, in addition to the sort of client side, is a sort of affiliate architect side, and I definitely want to be able to open it up. I want to create guidelines and sort of, I definitely see there being a variety of types of things available in terms of stylistically and the offerings that, different architects might be interested in, different types of construction, different ways of putting together a house. And I think that'll enrich the site. But I do feel like there need to be some kind of guidelines and a process, and not just sort of like anything that gets dropped on the site is accepted. I mean, there'll be a review process and standards in place for the graphics and some of those things. So it won't be probably for the first year, maybe or two, but I definitely want to widen the opportunity to other architects once I really get the platform going. And I'm excited about that as well, because one of the, I guess, also going back to scratching my own itch as a client to myself to build a house is part of it, but also wanting to be able to, design something creative and innovative and put it out there. And clients, when a client comes to you, they often have a pretty defined, somewhat, that varies, but a defined project in mind, or what they want, or how adventuresome they may be willing to be with the design. And I kind of wanted to just go for it and put something out there that was maybe a little more boundary pushing or a little more unorthodox, and build my own test case and then see, does anybody else, any takers? Come on, people, And the idea that for a young architect just starting out that doesn't really have access to an audience or a client base, and really facing probably years of building a reputation and going through the process of developing a practice, the idea that I could create a platform or a process by which architects starting out, or architects maybe that are in a market in a part of the country that maybe doesn't have a big market for very daring or interesting designs, and they feel frustrated, that there could be an outlet for them to put their projects out there in the world and develop a following, have raving fans, and get things built, and really kind of kickstart a career from much younger, and then have, really have, because part of the thing, I mean, as architects, it takes a long time to get a project built, and it takes a long time to build a career. And, the idea that if an architect who had like a fair amount of talent could get an earlier start on honing their craft and developing their ideas, you could add decades to the kind of creative lifespan of an architect's career, to getting things off the ground and further along. So, I mean, I think there is definitely an idea for me about benefiting the profession, seeing better design down the road. If more architects can get better exposure that are kind of skilled and talented earlier in their career rather than 20 years in before they really start getting better clients and better opportunities. And I'm very excited about that aspect of it as well.
Now, you're finalist in the Architect Business Plan competition, and by the time this episode goes live, so those you who are listening to this, right, the winner has already been announced. However, right now, Earl and I, we have no idea. So, look, you know more than we do right now. Look, here's the question. You went through this process of putting together this business plan. What I'd like to know, Earl, is what were your biggest, did you have any ahas from going through that process of the structured process of developing out a business plan? And if so, what were they?
Well, I think that, I mean, there were some ahas, and I'm still in the process now. So when this is airing, I've been through the process, and now I'm still in the process. So I think just really stepping back and forcing myself to take a really global view of my business, rather than just be, when you're in your business and you're working and you're reacting all the time. And it's even, I mean, when you're in any kind of business, you're in some kind of a dance between planning and executing. But as architects, especially for me, I mean, I guess I'll speak for myself, but I tend to be, in the moment on the job site, in the drawings with the client, and it's harder for me to sort of take the sort of helicopter view of the big picture and think about all those types of things with the business. And with this, I mean, that's what this exercise is, an exercise in stepping back and looking out from a vantage point at the overall view. And I think that really being able to, I think it was for the business plan, for the first round of the competition especially, just feeling like I started to develop a sense of where I wanted this to be in 5 years. And so trying to just, I mean, because in a sense, it's kind of arbitrary. It's, well, what do you want to make your goal as? And there's not really a right or wrong answer to that. It's your goal. What is your goal? And just having to really wrestle with that because somebody wanted an answer, not just because it's me sitting in my office trying to come up with an answer and I don't feel like I can come up with a good answer, so I'm going to just sort of kick the can till next week and put this decision off or whatever. I think really, and I can still change that. It's not set in stone in an unchangeable way. And every business plan is a path that you will follow and do a lot of course corrections as you go through. And that's everything you read about business planning says that, So, but I think, forcing myself to make some hard decisions about, well, this is what I'm going to decide and I can change it later, but this is the decision for now. And I'm going to base the rest of my planning around that. And this is where I'm going to take it. And this is what I'm going to need to do. And And so like right now I'm sitting down and I'm working through roles and responsibilities for making all the different parts of my business model move smoothly. And, it's those kinds of exercises that really, as I brainstorm and I'll think of something when I'm not done. So my brainstorming right now looks like, I took some old drawings from obsolete projects from years ago, and I unroll them and flatten them out upside down on my big work table. And I got Sharpies and Post-its, and I'm just sit down in the morning with my coffee before I do anything, and I just write and make notes and sketch and just think on these big pages to really just get the ideas out and work it through. Because I'm much more, Evernote is useful, and I do use it, but I can't sit and take notes on a keyboard that sink into my brain. I need to draw and write, and I outline. When I have a heading, I'll draw kind of big block letters and color them in, and it's sort of like coloring them in and shading with fine little hatch lines, like you used to do on drawings, And there's kind of you sort of can get in the zone with your thinking while you're sort of shading them in or doing a sketch, and so that's my thinking process.
Would you say that you're a visual person mainly, auditory, or kinesthetic about touch and feel?
Well, I think it's mainly, I think it's probably mainly kinesthetic, actually, for me, if you had to break it down to those three, because music, I usually don't listen to music while I'm working. It's too distracting for me because I want to focus on it. It's hard to not focus on it. And I'm pretty visual, but I like when I'm reading, if I'm really trying to, I just was telling a friend this the other day, when I'm reading and I'm really trying to finish a book for a reason and I'm not just reading for pleasure, I'll stand up and pace. I'll walk back and forth around my house because I need to have that activity. I should get a treadmill, but to read, because my brain needs the motor skills have to keep going for me, I guess.
So you say, going back to the business plan, Earl, you said that the big breakthrough for you was just taking a step back and looking at it from this eagle eyes view. How does having that more strategic look, how does that help you?
Well, it makes me, it's part of, setting goals and breaking down the process and then realizing that, well, okay. And also though, it made it more real for me in a really interesting way, because once I had a vision for what it could be in 5 years in a way that was really not just a, wild ass guess or a crazy, let's shoot for the moon, I'll be a millionaire or whatever. It was realistic. I made a realistic goal that I felt was attainable. And what happened was I experienced a kind of buy-in on the concept within my own self, around what I was doing. And I was like, okay, I can see achieving that. This is doable. It made it more real for me. Like, okay, there's a thing I'm out to achieve. So to be able to do that, what needs to happen, and then backing it up. And I've done, long range planning and goal setting type exercises and stuff in the past. But for some reason, with this last version of it that I did, it did really change my perception of the project that I'm working on, of this Clever Moderns, business concept.
Very cool. Well, I've been speaking with Earl Parson today. Earl is the founder of clevermodern.com and a California-based architect. Thanks, Earl.
Thanks. Can I just, it's Clever Moderns with an S. Check me out on the website there. Just throw that in there. Thanks so much, Enoch.
Great. Thanks, Earl.
And that is a wrap. Thank you for listening today. If you're looking for more time, freedom, impact, and income as an architect, get instant access to my free 4-part architect profit map by visiting freearchitectgift.com. The sponsor for today's show is ArchReach, the client relationship management tool built specifically for architects.
If you want to systematize your marketing and business development, ArchReach will help you do it. Visit archreach.com to learn more. The views expressed on this show by my guests do not represent those of the host, and I make no representation, promise, guarantee, pledge, warranty, contract, bond, or commitment except to help you conquer the world.